I want to welcome Auxiliary Constables Glenn Fillmore and Chris Pine here today for recognition of 20 years of service to the St. John Police Force as members of our Auxiliary Department force, I should say. The Chief apologizes for not being able to be here. He's been out of the office for a couple of weeks, so he asked if I would read comments in his place. So pretend that I'm the chief, and as opposed to me trying to paraphrase what he wrote, I'll just read it as if I'm Chief Connell. Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, staff, and Auxiliary Constables Fillmore and Pine and McDonald, who is not able to be here today because he's away. I would like to offer my apologies for not being able to attend this milestone recognition of 20 years of service with the St. John Police Force Auxiliary Program. To Glenn, Chris, and Chris, you're the first to achieve this honor, and rightfully so. Congratulations. You've been with us since the beginning. As community-minded members of our city, you signed up and became the first of many who would volunteer their time and energy to make St. John a safer place. As Chief, I would like to thank you for not only giving back to your community, but for being there and making this program what it is today. As an auxiliary member, you bring much to the St. John Police Force and the community, be it leadership, advice, experience, a lending hand, or a shoulder to lean on, all for someone who's at a time of need. As an auxiliary member, you give the most precious resource of all, your time, and you expect nothing in return. This moment is all about you. We're humbled by your generosity of spirit and your compassion for your fellow citizen. You have given so generously of your time, making the St. John Police Force and our community a better place. Thank you for your 20 years of service as part of the St. John Police Force family. Congratulations on this achievement. I'm going to ask Inspector LeBlanc, who's more appropriately dressed for the occasion than me, to present you with your 20-year service award, and we're going to get a picture so that we can have it for the years to come.
So, Chris Pine.
Thank you.
That's great.
Oops, sorry. I can't help myself. I got my work, sorry.
Glenn Fillmore. Congratulations.
Who's first? Yeah. Got mine.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, everybody.
With the background there, can we do that just for a moment?
Yeah.
Ed, you want to get one with the background?
I'll stand on one
I
side.
felt like 30 years of service. 20 years of service when he's only 30 years old, so that's starting off. Getting keen. That's right.
Okay.
You want that? You want
Yeah, the official photographer.
Yes.
No. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, thanks again. Thanks. Instrumental in the program.
Can't open that
Chris, do you want
it shows the blank. I've got this page, but then when I click on agenda kits, it shows the folder's empty. So I'm going to borrow somebody's. Yeah, that's okay. I'm sure there's an extra.
You know what I figured out when I was looking through this the other day? You can mark it out with this pen here. It's really nice because I put a big red circle around something.
Yeah, well, that didn't.
I can't even get into the agenda kits comes up as there's nothing in there.
Oh, here.
So
Yeah, I did what Gary showed me to go into Acrobat or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I went over and I switched the view or something and location. And because just when it comes to getting that laser feature, I can't read
There was an
it.
agenda 2019 kit.
yeah, I don't have, yeah.
Oh,
So it's disappeared. Anyways, I'll borrow somebody's or get, Daphne, my Laserfiche is missing 2019 for the folders. So I don't have
Did you
anything.
go in 2018?
I did, and it comes up as nothing.
Okay, but mine says 2018, and
Let's try one other thing there, that'd be, let's go back into the memory kit for a sec. And
Maybe name, maybe it's name.
I'm gonna add to the budget IT support for our chair.
yeah, no.
Dedicated
something's
IT
coming.
support.
Give 'em a hotline.
Is that?
Oh, yes,
Everybody else
no.
is working?
just,
Mine works
Okay.
fine.
Oh, here it
mine's
is, here it
downloaded
is.
already, so I don't know.
here it is, we're good.
Yep.
So May 14th, perfect.
And
It's
then,
desperate.
Yeah, I did.
and then if you do that,
You did get it?
do that, you switch it to, switch view, electronic file, and then now you can, now you can, just don't touch it, Ed.
All right.
It's here, I'll give you my iPad.
No, that's good, this will work. Trust me.
Good.
You guys keep me on the straight and narrow. Okay, thanks. So the second item on the open session is a report presentation from Marvin Corskad, the St. John Police Force record checks.
I was really just going to show you the video.
Perfect.
Has everyone seen it or not?
I have not.
The internet, yeah.
All right, good. I'll get a chance to show you. Just for a background for those that weren't here previous meeting is we are going with the online criminal record check. Much like our friends up in the valley have started. We're going to start on July 1st. We have, I'm going to suggest to you between 3,000 to 4,000 people that come in each year for criminal record checks. We anticipate with the online criminal record process that the number will go up. Because there's many times people will get a little frustrated coming in here trying to find a parking spot, coming into the paperwork and so on. So we think it's going to actually promote the number of people that ask for a criminal record check. And the other thing which we take pride in is for volunteers. We offer criminal record checks for volunteers. We don't charge them anything. There's two reasons why we do that. Number one is we want to promote volunteerism in the city, but also it's sort of a preventative thing that we do so that we ensure that people who volunteer for organizations have criminal record check done from a policing perspective as well. So there's a sort of a two-pronged approach there. So we're going to continue in the new year to still offer that free service to people that want to volunteer for different organizations.
Yeah, but if you go online, you gotta pay, right?
No, I'll talk to that in a second.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
'Cause I was looking at it last night, it says free, but online it says $9.95.
Second, okay.
It's explained.
Okay.
I had perhaps that John Rockets, John.
Yeah.
Of your own home, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's no need now to take time off work. Drive to our local police station and wait in our lobby, when you can do it from the comfort of your own home. On our website, you'll find information on both levels of police screening checks available to you. We encourage you to read carefully and make the correct choice. You can also speak to your employer and let them help you determine which police check is most appropriate for the position to which you're applying. Payment is handled through a secure online processor, similar to any other website on the internet. Our website includes online authentication, which is necessary as police services will not release information unless your identity has been confirmed. Authentication is performed by our partners, Forest Green TransUnion, who are licensed consumer credit reporting agencies. You will be asked a series of questions regarding your banking and credit history, the answers to which only you will know. Your credit file is not shared with the police. It is merely a process to authenticate your identity. Once your identity has been confirmed, the process will continue. When we receive the information, our staff will review it, conduct the appropriate background checks, prepare, certify, and mail your documents. Simple and convenient.
So that is the actual video that when we launch this, will be on our website, and we'll have all the background information as far as specifics to what the individual will have to provide to us through the authentication will be through a credit check. One of the things we are going to do, which is Sean talks about this in the video, as we launch this, we're going to still ask people to come in and pick up their criminal record check until we get this going. And eventually where we want to go with this is be able to mail those out to people, much like mail T4s and everything else in secure envelopes, so.
Here's the, I met with Doug Evans.
Yes.
who's, this afternoon to sign the agreement. And one of the questions or issues Doug raised was exactly that last comment you made. He said, part of the concern, because there's all kinds of issues, you know, is somebody going to call up with, you know, and pick something up that might not be theirs, or mailing it to somebody that's not theirs. So he said, I said, you know, why wouldn't you, and he said, we're going to ask for picture ID when they come in. And I said, that's the safest way you could have.
Yes.
And I said, why don't you take a picture of the picture ID? Because you're going to have a record of anybody that you've given that out for. I don't know what your record system going forward is, but you're trying to reduce paper here.
Absolutely.
And the time. So it may be take a picture of the driver's license that comes in through a phone, save it into the file, so you always have it, so you know if there was an issue that came up down the road that a report was requested by somebody that wasn't who they were. They certainly had to match the name when they came in.
Well, I'm glad you raised that. And one of the things we are going to do is, as much as you can do the application online, when you come in, you're still going to have to present identification and so on as if you're coming in. Because that service is still available for walk-ins. So if you're uptown, you don't want to do it online, you can walk in and do the same thing. So we're not changing as far as handling the request, other than we're trying to be receiving that information. As we get better at this and we know what sort of our history is,
Yep.
as we can evolve to this mailing of that will not happen anytime soon, because we want to make sure all our sort of systems are in place. One of the things we're also working on here, not related to this, but as you come into our front lobby, is we don't have electronic way to receive you as a guest. So we're going to look at technology to have an electronic greeting system. So you come in, chances are we're going to take your picture, we're going to issue you a guest pass, we're going to record all that information. So let's say, for instance, if Jeff comes in today and we authenticate you as Jeff, you come in next time, the system will recognize you and automatically have all that information available on you, so we can start tracking our guests that come and leave the building. Because right now we have a sign-in book. It's right on the side of the counter. And I can tell you right now, no one's going back and making sure that Jeff came and left the building, because we're small enough. So that's what we're going to look at as well. So we can start scanning a lot of information and have history of people coming into the building as well. We have one of our civilian members, she's working on that app. So actually it'll be probably on a tablet like this that we can actually have at the desk. Because we also have parolees that come in and sign in and out.
Yeah.
Sign in, I should say. We want to use that same app for that purpose and get a picture of that person. So yeah, we want to make sure that we do a much better job receiving our guests. But to Brian's point earlier about the fee, what we're going to do for the balance this year is we're not going to change sort of horses midstream. The $25 charge that we do charge, we're going to actually take that $9.95 out for the second half of this year. And next year we're going to look and change our fee structure, which is very similar to canopy cases. So the price will go up probably to $35 just to pay that surcharge. And then one of the other things we do when we do vulnerable sector checks is individuals have to pay to have their fingerprints done. Right now, all we're doing is taking $25 as a pass-through to the RCMP who actually does it for us. We're going to increase that probably to $40 so we pick up a little bit more revenue.
Yeah.
Forest Green currently does over 40 agencies, and they've seen over a course of a year that they've moved from walk-ins up to 80%, almost 90% is done electronically. And just last week, I think it was, I reached out to the local Anglophone district to see if there was an opportunity for us to start offering that service to teachers. And I was put to a lady in Fredericton and looking at, again, offering that to more professional groups and as a revenue stream. But once we get going with this, you literally could be at the cottage on your smartphone, iPad, and do all this right from home, and it'll save a lot of aggravation. We see people very frustrated coming in here, you know, they can't park, they can't do this, and they know they got to come back to, right? So we're trying to streamline that. So July 1st is where we're shooting to launch this.
To launch this video.
Yes, launch this and go
And the
live.
website.
But we're going to do some type of I was hoping the media's going to be, we want to do a little bit of a communication strategy as well to let people know. I know Rossi's already announced they're starting theirs, but I think from our perspective, we have a much larger volume as well, so we got to build the capacity in our records department to start receiving this data, because we have to load some desktops and so on. So it's a really good news story for the organization. I think a lot of people will be pleased when they do a criminal record check. But
In
But the lo-
parolees, when they come in, they have to carry a parolee card on themselves all the time, so I have a picture, so we know who the parolees are coming in. Like, they're not coming in and just signing, they have to carry a card on them, because another time with the
Yeah,
photograph.
that's just a sidebar on the greeting
Yep,
system.
sure.
But with the volunteer rate, now they come in, they pay zero.
They pay zero.
Okay, if they do it online, what do they pay?
They're gonna pay zero. We're gonna absorb that cost through the forest green. They'll send us a bill for that, at least for this part of the year.
Okay.
We still don't want to charge our volunteers because we have so many vulnerable areas of the city.
But I thought it said $9.95 for volunteer.
That's $9.95, but it will not, they will not.
Doesn't get passed on, so we're eating that cost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So question, Mr. Chair, so we do, did you say 3,000 a year, Marvin?
We ran the numbers probably for last year, and Don, it's probably close to 4,000 that we do. And what this system does, which is going to be a lot better for us as well, is it gives us all this data that we can't collect now. Like, we know, like, late August, we get a huge rush of university students, nursing students. We can't even tell you when our peak moments are, other than the revenue side.
Right.
It gives us all this demographic data that we don't have now that we can start tracking probably a little more clearly. And that's a real upside for us by going, not only saving paper, as Ed said, it's collecting that data on
Sure.
people.
Good demand. And do we know, sort of just a follow-up is, I guess where I was going with it is, how many do we do and what's our actual cost?
Yeah.
Well, actual costs, in our secretaries, for instance, we have a lady that actually does her regular job, and she does this as well. So where we're going to save time is on our front desk. Our front desk staff will not be spending time collecting that information. So where we see the real advantage from a staffing perspective is, my goal here is to move we have 2 people that need time on the front desk because of the volume of traffic, is move one of those individuals into the records area, and they will be actually doing this more as a one person, because we have one lady that when she's on vacation, we really see sort of a strain on our resources. So we're going to see some really huge productivity gains for us from that end of it as well.
What percentage of them would be volunteers that you guys have any?
We do a lot of volunteer. I couldn't tell you the exact number. Again, we will get that data from the system. But I would suggest to you, we probably do as many volunteers as we do for employers. Because everyone comes here, like it's actually ironic because if you look now at Canada cases, I think they're charging $15 a person.
Does that include the volunteers they charge?
15, it's actually 35 for any person that wants a regular one, but if you're a volunteer, they're charging 15. We're just trying to stay away from that because I think it's just it's a good service we provide. If we get more people online, it's actually going to decrease the work involved.
So I'm just thinking, we're paying out $10, so 4,000, that's $40,000 that we're, and if half that, we're not collecting anything back on, that's 20,000, but it might make sense to eat the $20,000, but it's not an insubstantial amount of money either.
Well, I think where we're going to actually, from a revenue perspective, Mike, I think we're going to actually not lose that because our volume's going to go up. So I think just from a sheer volume and pricing point.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, Marvin.
Thank you.
So let me go back to what I should have done the first, which was call the open session to order and ask under item number 2 for a motion to approve the minutes of the April 9th, 2019 meeting.
So moved.
Any seconder? Brian, thank you. On the motion, all those in favor, aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. I'll get a motion, if I could, to adopt the agenda for the May 14th, 2019 meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Your Worship. The seconder. Thank you, Mike. On the motion, all those in favor, aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. If there's anyone who has a conflict of interest of any of the items on the agenda, please disclose those now.
I have a conflict with the presentation on
Fair enough. Strike that from the record. And, all right.
Do it all over again.
Yeah, that's right. Is there the consent agenda? Let me just see here. I don't think there is anything to add to the consent agenda. Item number 6, we've done that, dealt with that, the delegation presentations. Is there any-
Actually, I have a question in the consent agenda,
Sure.
5.4. This, I think it was looking for ratification of the email vote on work priorities document, page 34.
Sorry,
Jeff, you're in a different
You know what? I will get my head about me at some point here today. Holy.
All right, so I don't think there's anything to add to the consent agenda, so, and there's nothing under 7 for the consideration of issues separated from the consent agenda. So dealing with item 8, I'm going to need a motion. The first item is 8.1. And Inspector, is there anything you need to bring to our attention on that if you wanted to make any comments?
It's internal monthly report.
Yeah, that's the internal monthly report.
Oh, okay, sorry about that.
No.
So we've had in April 0 complaints, 3 complimentary correspondence, and 0 grievances. Is that what you make?
Yes, thank you. So on item 8.1, could I have a motion to approve that item?
Receive and file.
Receive and file.
So moved.
Thank you. It's receive and file for short. Seconder on that, Brian? Thank you. On the motion, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Inspector, item 8.2, which is the highlights of the monthly activity report.
Okay, second please. My numbers are corresponding a little differently for some reason.
No issue. I guess it speaks for itself, Inspector. So does anybody have any questions, Inspector, on that?
Not a question, Mr. Chairman. I mean, just to continue to, I guess, comment to, this is a really great dashboard, and the more we can continue to peel the onion back, if I could use that analogy, which this is doing. I mean, it's breaking down by category the levels of call, and then in particular, I mean, my eye goes to mental health related calls, mental health act calls. And that should continue to drive advocacy work with the provincial government on the types of reforms and so on.
Well, and I can make this comment on that, Your Worship. I was driving to the west side probably about 3 weeks ago, and on the way over, and was going over to my mother's place from my place, and I was there for an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. And on the way over, I saw 2 police officers on the Reversing Falls Bridge. One of them had his hand on an individual's waist, so I knew exactly what was happening. They were preventing a suicide from happening. An hour and 15 minutes later, approximately, I drove back. They were still there talking to the individual on the bridge. So that just goes to show you the time involved in these types of things. And obviously, I assume it had a good outcome as opposed to what the alternative would have been. But it was a prime example of the issues.
And I think I recall that I know the chief had some ideas that were we didn't get a very positive, but I just think we can't give up on that overflow or downflow of responsibilities from provincial to municipal. We just need to pick the top 1 or 2 and just continue to advocate for change. So if we're going to do those services, we need the resources to do those services, or somebody else is, I mean, it's not that black and white, I know.
And we had another call just trying to highlight without identifying the person, and I know you would receive some emails because I had a lot of follow-up work to do because of a member of the public that got involved, but a person was being assessed, made comments they were going to leaving the hospital and go get some over-the-counter drugs, and the police had to find the bus, follow the bus, locate the person at a local shopping plaza here in the city center, and then transport that person back. And there was a lot of calls and trying to ping phones, and it's a significant amount of work.
Yeah, no question.
And then these numbers have been advantageous in another way. I went to a Crown meeting and just talked about the number of calls that we had because the Crown wanted us to de-notify all the civilian witnesses and kind of look at whether or not Patrol could do that. And I said, 1 month alone, 4,800 calls went through PSCC for police. So if you're going to put that responsibility on police to de-notify hundreds of civilian witnesses, I really think that it's going to fall through the cracks and we're not going to do a good job on it. And the Crown involved was quite surprised that we had that level of calls and never brought it back for us to do. We obviously de-notify police witnesses, but if you look at the hundreds of civilian witnesses in a year, for us to track them down and go and physically notify them. So doing this dashboard has been really quite advantageous, so.
Perfect. Any comments, questions on the report? Further, I should say, if not, I'll ask for a motion to receive and file 8.2. Mike, thanks. Your worship, seconder. On the motion, all those in favor, aye. Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. Could I get a motion to adjourn? Moved and seconded. Thanks, Brian. Moved, seconded, Jeff. So that ends open session. We'll close that. And we're going to take a short break, I think.